I had no idea you had been hoarding like that. Besides, we're a married couple. There's no reason I shouldn't use our shared assets. It's worse to hide it while looking down on me. My husband and mother-in-law continued talking as they please. I was so disgusted with them that I decided to confront them with the truth. Asterisk, sigh. Asterisk, by the way, have you checked the name of the passbook? Ha. My name is Lillian, and I'm turning 42 this year. I've been married for 17 years. Before that, I worked at a company. After getting married, I quit my job and started working part-time at a local supermarket. I met my husband Easton at work, and at the time, I thought he was an ordinary and kind man. That changed about 6 months after we got married. One day, while preparing dinner, my mother-in-law suddenly visited our house without any notice. My husband hadn't come home from work yet, and I thought there might be some urgent matter, so I let her in. As soon as she saw the living room, she let out a big sigh. Lillian, you've been idly watching TV until this hour. My son Easton is still working hard, sweating at his job. Don't you feel sorry? Yes, I did have the TV on, but until a moment ago, I had been preparing dinner in the kitchen. You might say I'm lazing around, but I finished my housework by morning and have just returned from shopping after my part-time job. Feeling irritated but thinking I've done my part, I replied, I'm sorry, to my mother-in-law. She ostentatiously snorted, went into the kitchen, and started finding fault with dinner too. Oh dear, is this all we have for dinner today? Poor Easton, working so hard. I planned for curry and salad today. The salad is in the fridge. How could you let Easton eat such a half-baked meal? I wonder what you've learned at home. Insulted not just about me but also about my parents, I finally lost it and asked a bit harshly, didn't you need something? My mother-in-law opened her eyes wide. Oh my, don't get so mad just because I looked at the dinner. She pouted her lips conspicuously and sat heavily on the sofa to watch TV. What do you need? It's not what do you need. Don't you think you should offer something to your mother-in-law who has kindly visited? Excuse me. You're such an inconsiderate person, not even serving tea. Poor Easton, she kept repeating poor Easton, so I served her tea. But she complained about everything, including the taste of the tea, saying it was cheap. Back then, I was young and avoided arguing with my husband's mother, wondering if I should be considerate to her. However, taking advantage of the fact that neither my husband nor I said anything, my mother-in-law began to frequently visit our home, constantly complaining that I wasn't cleaning properly, that I was always lazy, and that I lacked discipline. After being constantly criticized at every turn, I was truly at my wit's end and decided to consult my husband about his mother. Hey, could you ask your mom to reduce the number of times she comes to our house? Why? Is it that much of a bother when mom comes over? You've seen it, haven't you? No matter how much I work on the house or cooking, your mom keeps complaining about me. Well, that's because mom wants you, Lillian, to work harder so she gets tough. I'm doing my best, but if she comes over without notice, I can't even prepare dinner properly. If you're bothered, say it yourself. But don't forget that mom cares about us too. Throughout, my husband was like this. He never really worried about what I was saying. No matter how much effort I put into cleaning the house or studying cooking, my mother-in-law would nitpick and never praise me once. The vegetables my mother-in-law brought were clearly close to their expiration date, so I used them for dinner. Then my mother-in-law sighed conspicuously. To serve such withered vegetables to her husband and his mother, I finally realized that she just wanted to bully her daughter-in-law. Being persistently criticized, I consulted my father-in-law. When I told him that it was hard to prepare meals for the mother-in-law and that it was a problem to be visited many times without notice, he seemed unaware she was coming to our house and apologized to me politely. I thought she was going out to dinner with friends. I didn't think she was bothering you, Lillian. I'm sorry. No, it's not something for you to apologize for. She's often out and about, so I've been giving her money for meals, but she hasn't been taking it, has she? Unfortunately, no. I'm really sorry. My father-in-law continued to apologize throughout our conversation. He promised to speak sternly to my mother-in-law, and I didn't press further on her attitude, thinking that was sufficient. I thought I could finally relax, but then I received a phone call filled with scolding from my mother-in-law. Hello? You're really uncouth, tattling to my husband like that. What? I've been going out of my way to check on you, and I didn't expect you to repay my kindness with such ingratitude. That's not true. I'm not repaying kindness with ingratitude. If anyone should apologize, it should be you. It's audacious to claim your inconvenience. I'm educating you in areas where your upbringing was lacking. You should be grateful. I understand your perspective, but it is inconvenient when you show up without notice. Should a mother need to make an appointment to visit her own son's house? My parents wouldn't do that. How bold of you as a daughter-in-law. You should adapt to the rules of your husband's family. No matter what I said, she grew increasingly heated and eventually started yelling so loudly that I couldn't understand her. Then she hung up. I suspected she called while my father-in-law was absent, so I hesitated to consult him again, fearing it would only exacerbate the situation. Though the visits decreased slightly, my mother-in-law continued coming to our home. My husband, in good spirits, shared work complaints with my mother-in-law and received her sympathy, showing no signs of persuading her to stop visiting. Seeing his attitude, my mother-in-law became even more cheerful, and they both began blaming me. Lillian, you don't show enough respect to Mom. That's right, Easton, tell her more. I'm only getting a small allowance, even though I'm the one earning the money. That's terrible. What a devil of a wife you have. They continued eating the meals I prepared while complaining about them, chatting and laughing in the living room I had cleaned. When I washed the dishes, my husband would say, "At least prepare the bath," expecting me to get everything ready from bath towels to his pajamas. My mother-in-law didn't reprimand him but instead sided with him, saying, "Poor thing, having such an inconsiderate wife." I consulted with my father-in-law again and received yet another profuse apology, but I was exhausted with my mother-in-law's unchanged behavior. Those days stretched on endlessly. One day, I realized that a necklace passed down to me by my own mother was missing. When I asked my husband, he claimed he didn't know and coldly dismissed me with, "You probably lost it due to your own carelessness. It was supposed to be in my drawer." The truth came out when my mother-in-law visited our home again during dinner time. Mother-in-law, that necklace? Oh dear, it's quite disgraceful to desire something someone else is wearing. What my mother-in-law had around her neck was undoubtedly the necklace I had lost. It had a unique, unusual design with a peculiar ornament, and there was no way I could mistake it. And there she was, wearing it right in front of me. "Please give it back." How awful. Are you accusing me of stealing from you? It's not only desiring someone else's belongings but also calling them a criminal that reveals your upbringing. With a triumphant smile, my mother-in-law provoked me until I couldn't hold back and reached for her necklace. Then my mother-in-law purposefully screamed, and just then my husband, who had returned home earlier than usual, opened the front door. Upon seeing me, he shoved me hard. I crashed into the wall and crouched down on the spot. Looking down at me, my husband grasped my mother-in-law's shoulder and began accusing me. "Just like Mom said, you've been bullying her while I'm not here, haven't you?" "That's right, Easton. Lillian is really terrible. I just wanted to get along." "No, listen. The necklace your mother is wearing is the one I said I lost. I don't want to hear any excuses. Mom, let's eat out tonight. You better reflect on your actions." Such a sweet boy. Easton really is a good son. With that, my husband left with my mother-in-law. The shock of not being able to retrieve my necklace, coupled with the anger towards my husband for siding with my mother-in-law without listening to me, made my pent-up frustrations explode. That day, I sought out my father-in-law again. While he apologized to me, he also listened attentively to my story, revealing his own frustration with my mother-in-law's behavior. It was during this conversation that I hatched a plan. When my mother-in-law visited our house again without learning her lesson, flaunting the necklace and enjoying my reaction, I carefully set my plan in motion. "I forgot to buy something. Could you look after the house for a bit?" I deliberately asked her. Normally, she would have retorted sharply, but this time she smiled sweetly and agreed. "Of course. Take your time. You're always busy with housework." "Thank you. I'll be back in about 30 minutes. With that, I left her at home and went out alone. In the supermarket parking lot, my heart pounded with nervous anticipation. I hoped to find definitive evidence, yet part of me also wished my mother-in-law and husband would reflect on their actions and change. Exactly 30 minutes later, I returned home with shopping bags in hand. As I entered, I found my mother-in-law and husband in the living room casually eating dinner. "Oh, you were late, so we started without you. Today's dinner was more plain than usual. Don't you feel sorry for Mom?" "But I asked mother-in-law to watch the house because I forgot to buy something." "No more excuses. Be careful next time." Watching my husband grow even more arrogant due to my mother-in-law's presence, I couldn't help but sigh. Looking at the nearly empty pot with only scraps of vegetables left, I felt more disgust than anger towards my husband, who hadn't thought to save any food for me. It seemed unlikely that these two would ever reflect on their actions. After cleaning up dinner, I checked the trap's status after my mother-in-law had left. As expected, it appeared that the trap had been triggered. Seeing this, my husband smirked, mocking me. His victorious smile mirrored my mother-in-law flaunting the necklace, and despite myself, I couldn't help but chuckle. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than I expected. On my husband's day off, my mother-in-law summoned me to the living room. Finding them both in high spirits, I sat across from them, pretending ignorance. "Hey, why didn't you tell us?" "What are you talking about?" "About the bank book. With that much money, you could have told us. Now you can show filial piety to Mom too." "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't play dumb. We're talking about your bank book." "Oh," I managed to say without displaying any hint of panic. Although it might have appeared suspicious, the two of them happily spread out estimates for a single-family house on the table. "Mom and Dad, you and me, we bought a new two-family house." "But what do you mean?" "You're slow to catch on, aren't you? We're saying we made a contract with the money from your bank book. Buying it all at once means no interest, and it's smoother, right?" "Hold on, why are you moving forward with this without me?" "Lillian, you really do hate me, don't you? That's why you're saying you don't want to live together." "Hey, cut it out. You're being rude to Mom." "Who's being rude? It's far more disrespectful for you two to use my money without my permission." "You're the one." "Huh, people with bad upbringing really have bad mouths." Suppressing a laugh at their audacity, I marveled at how appalling the situation had become. Yet my determination to exact revenge remained unshaken, fueled by their actions. "We found a perfect newly built property for sale, so we've already signed the contract. No matter what you say, it's too late now anyway." "I didn't know you were saving up that much. Besides, we're married, so there's no reason for you to complain about using our shared property." "That's right, it's worse to hide it." "By the way, did you check the name on the bank book?" "Huh?" Their expressions froze at my words. Finally, unable to contain myself, I burst into laughter. They both stared at the name on the bank book, then turned to me with faces drained of color. "What the hell is this?" "It's exactly what you're seeing." "Why is our daughter's name on it?" "I never said it was my bank book." "So what does that mean?" "You stole Dad's bank book, you thief." "Who's the thief?" "You went out of your way to pry open a locked drawer and took it. But you were hiding it so carefully." "Oh, so it's okay to steal things that your daughter treasures? I guess that's how you were raised, mother-in-law." "Don't talk back to Mom. Watch your mouth." "Do you know why father-in-law gave this to me?" "Oh, why do you say?" "I heard from father-in-law about the reason mother-in-law has been spending so much money lately. You two took a vacation while taking time off from work, didn't you?" "Well, it seems you told the company whatever you wanted as the reason for taking time off, like I had a fever or went back to my parents' home. I got a call from the department head, and he was speechless when I told him the truth." "Huh?" Finally realizing their predicament, the two exchanged troubled glances. But I had no intention of forgiving them for this. While we were silent, the doorbell conveniently rang. I went to the entrance and brought the visitor into the living room, causing the two to let out a small scream. When my mother-in-law came to our house, I had contacted my father-in-law. "Why are you here?" "I've told you countless times not to cause trouble for Lillian." But, there are no buts. When will you two start behaving properly?" "Dad, she had your bank book and—" "So, why are you calling her she? I didn't raise you to be so rude. You're old enough to know better. It's embarrassing to hear you refer to Mom like that all the time. If you can't treasure your wife, what's the point of calling her she?" "If you say that, she has treasured me too." "Are you saying you're not being treasured? I've been working hard to avoid causing you trouble, and I thought I'd managed to save a decent amount of money. I've tried my best to let you do what you want without any financial constraints, and now what? You want me to overlook your mistreatment of your wife." Throughout this exchange, my father-in-law fired back at every excuse they tried to make, leaving them speechless. He delivered the final blow to the two who were shrinking and hanging their heads. "About the bank book, by the way, I told her to take it as compensation for all the trouble you've caused, despite my warnings." "No way, and after stealing that money, you've even bought a house. What more should I do for you?" The two couldn't say anything, and my father-in-law ended up taking my mother-in-law home. Before she left, I pointed to her neck and successfully retrieved the necklace. Seeing this, my husband understood what had happened and forced his mother to apologize. In the now quiet living room, I handed divorce papers to my husband, who looked completely defeated. "Oh, why? What do you mean, why? After everything that's happened, do you really think we can stay married? But you're only mad at Mom. Of course I'm disgusted with you too. No, I won't divorce. Then shall we go to court? We have to expose everything you've done to the court and your company though." "Huh? Oh yes, we've got it all on camera. You two breaking open the lock and taking the bank book clearly shows you two in the act." "No, you're lying. It's astonishing how you can accuse others of theft after what you've done. I wonder what kind of upbringing you had." "What? All of that will be made public, and you'll probably have to repay the $300K you've used of your father-in-law's money, along with my compensation and the court fees." "What are you going to do? Why can you say such cruel things? You still don't get it. Should we have your father lecture you again?" I accepted the divorce papers from my dejected husband and finally became a free woman. As for the $300K I received from my father-in-law, I decided to accept it as compensation for my ordeal with my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. Under my father-in-law's supervision, the two of them worked tirelessly to repay him a total of 60 million yen. Once I received an email from my ex-husband to a free email address, seemingly asking for reconciliation, but I ignored and deleted it. Thanks to being free from my source of stress, my health has improved, and I'm enjoying my life with the money I received from my father-in-law.